These are process field notes.
I've been reading this play. It's about two guys standing by a road. They're waiting for someone, a man named Godot. They don't know when he's coming, and they don't know what he will look like. They're not even sure he agreed to meet them. They wait the entire play, but he never shows up. Page after page of two men doing nothing, going nowhere, waiting for someone who isn't coming, and for reasons I couldn't explain at the time, it made more sense than anything I'd read in months. This is about waiting. Not the ordinary kind, not traffic, not the DMV, the deeper kind. The kind where you're waiting for your life to start making sense. Where you're waiting for the version of yourself who has it figured out to finally arrive and take over. We do this constantly, especially as fathers, especially as men. We're told somehow, somewhere, there's a moment where it all clicks. Where confidence arrives and stays, where the uncertainty ends, and you just know what you're doing. I've been waiting on that moment for a very long time. Turns out there's a whole philosophy built around this feeling, and a strange corner of mid-century theater that turned it into art. And I think it might be the most honest framework I've found for understanding what it feels like to be alive right now. After World War II, something broke. Not just cities, not just economies. Something in the story we've been telling ourselves about what it means to be human. For centuries, there are these big structural narratives. God has a plan. Nations progress. Reason leads to truth. History bends toward justice. Then 50 million people died in 6 years, and a lot of those stories just stopped working. A French-Algerian writer named Albert Camus started asking a question that sounds simple but isn't. What do you do when you need meaning from a universe that doesn't provide it? He didn't say life is meaningless. That's nihilism. That's a different door. What Camus said was that life doesn't come with meaning pre-installed. You're born into a world that doesn't explain itself to you. And the gap between your need for answers and the silence you get back, that gap is what he called the absurd. A handful of playwrights took that idea and built a theater around it. Samuel Beckett, Eugene Ionesco, Harold Pinter. They wrote plays where the plot doesn't resolve. Conversations loop, characters wait for things that never arrive. A critic named Martin Esslin looked at all of this in the early 1960s and gave it a name, the theater of the absurd, which sounds like a punchline, but it's not. It's a mirror. Here's where it gets personal. I've spent years in a kind of waiting room, waiting for career clarity, waiting to know if I should start the thing or stay in the thing, waiting to feel like the decisions I'm making are the right ones, waiting to stop being tired, waiting to stop second-guessing. And the thing is about waiting is it feels productive. It feels responsible. You tell yourself you're not rushing in, you're being thoughtful, you're gathering information. But at some point, waiting becomes the thing you're doing instead of the thing you're supposed to be doing. As a father, this hits a little different because your kids aren't waiting. They're moving. Every single day, they're becoming something new, and they're watching you to figure out how that works. They're not watching to see if you have all the answers. They're watching to see what you do when you don't. In Beckett's play, the two men keep saying they should leave, they should go, they should do something else. And every act ends the same way. The stage direction just reads, they do not move. I know that feeling. The desire to act paired with the inability to choose which action. The sense that moving in any direction means closing off other directions. So you stand still, and you call it thinking. But here's the thing I've started to understand. You don't wait for readiness. Readiness isn't a thing that arrives. You act, and the acting is what makes you ready for the next thing. Repetition isn't a trap. It's a practice. Every day is a rehearsal, and there's no opening night. Camus wrote about a figure from Greek mythology, Sisyphus, condemned by the gods to push a boulder up a hill for eternity. Every time he reached the top, the boulder rolled back down. Every time it rolled back down, he walked to the bottom and started again. And Camus made this extraordinary claim. We must imagine Sisyphus happy. That line used to annoy me. It sounded like toxic positivity dressed up in philosophy. Just smile through it. Just be grateful for the grind. But that's not what he meant. What he meant was, the moment Sisyphus decides the boulder is his, not a punishment, but a project, everything changes. Not the circumstances, not the posture. Camus called it revolt. Not rebellion, not anger, a quiet refusal to let the absence of guaranteed meaning become an excuse to stop building meaning yourself. Yeah? I think about this constantly. When I'm trying to help my kids through something hard and I don't have the answer. When I'm working on something I'm not sure anyone will care about. When I'm staring at a decision that doesn't have a clean right answer. The situation doesn't care about your clarity. It only asks one question. Are you going to show up or not? So that's what I've taken from Beckett and Camus in this strange tradition of plays where nothing happens and everything matters. You don't wait for meaning. You don't wait for certainty. You don't wait for the version of yourself who finally has it together. You act anyway. You show up anyway. You push the boulder anyway. And somewhere in the repetition, in the showing up, in the refusal to stay frozen, that's where the meaning lives. Not before the work, but inside it. Godot never came, but I'm still here anyway. Act boldly, expect nothing, repeat.
These are process field notes.